My name is Darryl Praill. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of VanillaSoft. I'm the host of the Inside Sales Podcast. And let me share with you, friends, the best advice I ever got was to simply listen. Don't listen for when you can next speak. Earnestly, caringly, intensely listen to hear what they're saying. And when you do that, my friend, the world is your oyster because they will share with you treasures and gold that you can harvest and become wealthy and plentiful and happy. Listen, and you will be successful.
Wow. That's simple, man, but so hard. So why
It
don't
is
people listen, Darryl? Why don't we listen?
because we're so focused on what we have to say because we're anxious. We've got a script, we've got an objective, we got an outcome, we got a quota, whatever it might be, and it's all about us. And the reality is, what people forget sometimes, understandably, is that everything we're doing, whether I'm a bricklayer or I'm a marketer or I'm a salesperson, it doesn't really matter. I'm an entertainer. It's all about relationships. And just think about it. In your relationships, when you're talking to someone special, you're talking to your parents, you're talking to your best friend, what do you want them to do? You want them to hear you, to understand you, to show empathy, compassion, understand, perhaps give you some counsel, some wisdom. But to do all that, you want to be heard. So what we forget to do is to reciprocate that because we're so focused on our own objectives. Too many people I watch simply just listen for the pauses in the conversation so they can jump back in. And if you're doing that now, that will explain your lack of sales success. Let me tell you this.
Wow. Wow. That's so interesting, right? We get so busy focused on our checklist, on our boxes to check, on quota, on everything that we miss the simplicity and the beauty of listening. I dig that, man. So Daryl, where did you learn that, man? Did you learn that because you have always been a great listener? Did dad or mom teach you that? Or did it happen? Somebody comes punch you in the face and say, dude, shut up and listen.
So you're going to laugh. I'm giving you an answer you're never going to expect coming. You know who taught me that lesson? Was I might have been, Jiminy, what would I have been? 6, 7, 8 years old. I learned that from my speech therapist. My speech therapist. So you're saying speech therapist. So when I was a kid, I had a massive stutter. And I had 8 years because I was a really slow learner. I had 8 years of speech therapy. And truly for me, what it was exactly what I just described. I wanted to get out so fast, all the stuff that was going on in my head or in the conversation. I want to jump ahead. I want to cut you off, that my brain was on the second or third paragraph of what it was I wanted to deliver. And my tongue was still on the first paragraph, and we stumbled over each other. And, one thing that you hear people say all the time, slow down, slow down. Well, it's, even when I slow down, it still feels painfully slow. And then I want to speed up again. But if you say, listen to what people are saying, then it forces you to bring the energy down and engage. So it was one of the tactics they taught me. It's my speech therapist. And then I heard it over and over again growing up. And I will be the first one to tell you that I often fall back into ignoring that advice. So even though I know what I should do, I suck at it myself quite often, just so you know.
It's an area of improvement.
It
For
is a
all of us, for
constant
sure.
area. My wife is great for saying, don't interrupt me. Don't, stop cutting me off. And I'm like, but I have the answer. So she reminds me.
Yeah, my wife reminds me of that too.
I just want to be
good.
heard. Or the best line is, all right, I don't want your advice. I just want you to listen. And that kills me because I'm just wired to give free, unsolicited advice that may or may not be credible. So
I think we're married to the same woman, Darryl. That happens. So that's yeah, that happens. I think, but I would tell you though, all of us need to remind male, female, otherwise, right? Andrea Walls, right? We all teach what we need to keep learning. Andrea is so right on. I so agree with that, right? We all do. So that's good though. So now that we know we have to listen, and we're probably going to listen to each other, maybe talk over to each other some. Darryl, you learned that early, but now let's fast forward to today, man. Now you're the chief revenue officer of this company called VanillaSoft. So what does that mean, man?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh because that's such an open-ended question. Okay, so here's what you need to know. I can give you the answer of what it means, but I'll give you the answer that went on in my head when you asked the question, because that's a better answer. What it means is that I am the guy who has to be the professional full-time therapist and counselor to everybody else who's on the revenue team, whether you're in sales or in marketing, because everybody's going to bitch and moan and complain, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody's not happy because we're human. We're human, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. I don't like the training. I don't like what you're saying. I don't like the expectations. I don't like the quota. I don't like the activities. I want. And so for me, as chief revenue officer, that means I empower a really good team underneath me of leaders to do their job. I give them some guidance. I kind of poke and prod their plans to make sure that it's well thought out and formulated, hold them accountable to their timelines and their commitments, make sure that we're hitting the KPIs and the OKRs that we're striving to achieve, but let them do the work. My job is to be chief counselor and chief therapist whilst they're doing their job.
So you're not the chief revenue officer, you're the chief listening officer. Is that what you're saying, Darryl?
I am. And because sometimes it's hard because whilst I'm listening to you in my mind, I'm thinking, why are we having this conversation, dumbass? Just do your job. But there's other times, of course, when I'm also thinking to myself, hey, that's legit. You got an honest beef. Let me tell you why we're doing this, what led to that. Because clearly you were given the mandate, the directive to do X, but you weren't given the backstory behind why we're doing X. And I can connect those dots for you. So there's an element of that. And because if you think about it, and it goes back to listening, the biggest challenge we have to do anything in life, because we need each other to do our jobs, even a buyer needs a seller, so to speak, is to communicate. And not, you may be the best salesperson going on, but that doesn't mean you're a good communicator. So, and when we're not on the phones, we're not doing our email, we're just, Jack and Jill hanging out with each other. And that's when our guard is down. And we don't always communicate well. We don't give context. We don't explain rationale. We don't allow people to express their thoughts and concerns so they have consideration into the final decision, so they have ownership. It all comes back to communication. It's funny because when I was thinking about what is the best advice I'd ever heard, I was between listening and, ironically, and this has come full circle, communicating. And I was going to actually say communicate up. So the second best advice I ever got was to communicate up. Because if you want the ability to do your job, to be empowered, to be entrusted, then you need to communicate up what you're doing and why you're doing it so they can poke and prod and then give you permission. If you don't communicate up, what ends up happening is the higher ups then try to micromanage you because they don't know what you're doing, but they know what they need to achieve and they don't see you doing it. But when you communicate up, then you can come to some, trusted compromise on the approach, and then they will let you do it because they have confidence that what you're doing will help them achieve their goals.
That is solid advice too, right? I think that's something that is hard and simple, right? It is hard because either we assume, like you said, when you're thinking about folks, oh, well, why are you asking this question? Just go do it, right? As a leader, sometimes don't we think that we want to just take action, right? Mm-hmm. Don't we ask for forgiveness instead of permission? I mean, why do we communicate up, Darryl? Talk to me more about that, man. How is that not a contrast, or how is that not intention?
So I'll give you an example. So before I was chief revenue officer here at VanillaSoft, I was the chief marketing officer. That's actually why I came to the company. And then they were stupid in 2020 and they said, hey, you need more stress in your life. Here's this job title. And I was even more stupid. And I said, thanks. I'm wrong with that. I would talk to my CEO once, twice a week. How's it going? Yeah, we're having good. Yeah, we were on the show. Yeah, we got printed. Yeah, we got somewhere. Yeah, the leads are going great. That was kind of it. And because there was a good rhythm, it was fine. Life was grand. No shortage of leads. He trusted me. I trusted him. When I became CRO, clearly that was a transition in the upper ranks. So that means I was brought in to fix an existing problem that was perceived in the organization, and they wanted me to move forward with it. So why did I communicate up? My communication went to 2 and 3 and 4 times a day, every single day. Because what I would do is I would communicate up my challenges, communicate up my observations, get their feedback, this back and forth. Because what you want is you want the stakeholders who control or influence your role to have a sense of ownership. You want them to buy into what you're doing. So you're right. You can beg forgiveness and you can still do that a little bit. And here's the funny part is it's actually really easy to do your own thing and to even be so bold as to make brash decisions that don't factor in others because you think, damn it, that's the right thing that needs to be done. When you're communicating up all the time, because all the stakeholders individually feel like they contributed to your decision. Therefore, they take ownership in what you're doing right now, right? So if I were to talk to my head of support, and my head of support said, sales is not setting expectations on the product's functionality when they're selling it, and we're getting a lot of after sale calls because they're not happy with the product because they feel misled. That doesn't happen at VanillaSoft, but let's just say that happened. I could say, what do you think we should do? Now, in my mind, I probably already knew that because I did an audit of my team. And I probably already had a plan in place to do product training that involves call recordings, role playing, all this wonderful stuff. But now I can communicate back because I could just say, oh, you're just bitching and moaning and leave it with me. I got this under control. And then they get ticked off because they don't feel heard. Remember, we started off by listening. Or I can go back to them and say, okay, so I thought about what you said. And because of what you said, I'm going to implement some product training and I'm going to do some role playing. Would you like to be part of that? No, Darryl, I trust you. Just fix it. I'm there. So then when I go to the actual executive meetings and I say, okay, so budget change, I need to go spend $25,000 on some instructional training software, and I may need to hire an actual instructional designer. Let's vote on it. The head of support says, I'm with Darryl. Why? Because I communicated up. They felt heard. I'm serving a problem they perceived that was affecting their job performance. When I ask for more money, they're advocating on my behalf. That's the power of communicating up. When secretly, all along, I'm pretty self-aware of what's going on with my team, and I knew what I needed to do. So again, you start to see how this works. I'm just kind of making sure everybody has their input, they feel heard. And every once in a while, I am going to hear something because we open up by listening. I'm going to hear something that I'm going to play back to them and go, that's really interesting. I knew we needed training, but I didn't know it was affecting the call support issues. That's news to me. Okay. So now when I'm teaching the reps why we need to do this, I'm like, oh, we got enough training already, more training. I'm going to say, do you know that we have higher churn because we're misleading them on its capabilities, and support's call volume has gone through the roof, and they've had to hire more people to staff that up, all because we're not doing it right from the get-go. That's why we need to better do this. Oh, okay. I've got context now. Okay, good. So that's the power of communicating up, is you're getting advocates and you're getting stakeholders who are entrusting you in your plans because they feel that they're part of the process.
Yeah, well, you get commitment instead of just compliance, right? You get
Bingo.
people who actually are bought into what you do and really, really want it to succeed because it's part of their plan and not just part of your plan.
So
Is
the
that
one
what
thing
you're
I was,
saying?
that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm saying, let me, as you listen to this, what's your career aspirations, right? So for those of you listening, do you aspire to be a senior executive in an organization? Is that your goal? Okay. There's two ways you can do this. You can be a bully, and as long as you get results, they will trust you for a period of time. But the minute your results crash, and by the way, everybody crashes at one point or another, you're going to be gone because they only kept you around because you got results, but you were disruptive to the company and you affected negatively the culture. That's one approach. The other approach is when you lead by example, you listen to the people involved, you recognize that 1+1 is 3, etc. That's communication. Part of that is listening, part of that's communicating up. So when they see that, people say, I may not agree with Praill, but I know he's not malicious, and I know he's kind of smart, and I know he's got the best interests at mind, and I feel heard. So even though he doesn't agree with me, he doesn't do what I tell him to do, I do at least know that I had some input, therefore I'll follow him. And that's how you become a senior leader who's successful and sought out. I've learned this the
Yeah.
hard way by being fired more than once. That's another story for another day.
Well, I think, to your point, though, we all stumble. We all sometimes miss. And if we miss because we have people's best interests at heart, we have an opportunity to try again. But if we're being malicious, being a bully, being someone who runs over people, runs through people, well, chances are they're going to find a way around getting you promoted, giving you another chance. And be like, whoa, this is a pattern. What's going on here, Phil? So I dig that, Darryl. I think those are two great pieces of advice. But like marketing and now over sales. I mean, do marketing and sales, do you guys actually work together? How's that work, man?
So I actually got off a call within the last hour where we were having a conversation, and the conversation was basically that. And I said, here's what you need to understand is that marketing and sales have never, ever, ever, ever been more blurred and more pseudo aligned in the history of sales and marketing. So, great example. I recently went to my first event ever since pre-COVID days. And I was speaking, I was at the live event. It was down in Atlanta. It was in June. And I was using this as an example. I said, so what was taking place at that event? I said, this is just one example. I said, one of the big sessions was basically where we were teaching sales reps how to write emails. Think about that. That was never a sales rep skill. That's marketing. Marketing does the A/B testing. Marketing does this. I sent an email blast not too long ago to my opt-in base of sales leaders in the world, and I had somebody respond back to me, and it says, "Your email sucks." So I knew right away where he
Whoa.
was coming from, and then it was all ego. My subject line strive an 84% open rate. And if you ever need help, just let me know because I'm the boss. So now the marketer in me says, nobody has a freaking 84% open rate. So, buddy, you're clueless. That aside, I was gobsmacked. I'm like, when have I ever had a sales rep tell me that my emails suck? So, our sales and marketing, a cat and a dog, kind of at each other. Sure, there's always an element of that, and that can be resolved. But the roles are blurring. And as I said, to me, I don't view it as sales and marketing anymore. In fact, the first thing I did, I was about a month into my job of being CRO, and I realized about a month in that I still have a sales team, I still have a marketing team, and that was wrong because they weren't talking to each other like they should be. And so I took the leaders of both of those teams and I put them, created a dedicated Slack channel, created a weekly meeting. And I said, guys, we're not sales and marketing at this meeting. Look around the table, the virtual table. This is the revenue team. And like a sports team, everybody's got a role. Like a military, everybody's got a specialty. And I said, marketing, you're more top of the funnel. Sales, you're more bottom of the funnel. One feeds the other. You need each other, right, to hit our revenue goals. So changing that mindset has been huge. The number one talk I've given in the last year over and over again by request is how to get sales and marketing aligned. And a lot of it in the end just comes down to each person, whether you're sales or marketing, understanding the other person's role. And the best way to do that is to walk a mile in their shoes. So put a marketer on a phone and say, for this day, just one day, you're going to dial. You're going to dial for dollars and watch you struggle and watch you get on and say, this script sucks. And watch you say, I need to send content. Where's the content? This is the we don't have any content. This content sucks. And all of a sudden you start to realize what's going on. And it's the same thing for the sales rep to say, I want you to go and brief a journalist or talk to an industry analyst or what have you, and watch them go, that's not my skill set. Okay. So that's the biggest part. So it's a changing world, my friend.
Yeah, it's a big changing world. I like that you call that the revenue team. That makes sense, being that they report up to you, but it also makes sense because truly everyone is responsible for revenue, but none more than marketing and sales. So I really think that's super important for folks to get their arms around. So with that, I mean, I did just a smidge of looking here at at what are the cool stuff that you guys are doing at VanillaSoft, because I'm somewhat familiar. But I looked here and I saw something that really made me smile, and that was this idea in scripts. Because while salespeople say they don't like scripts, they at least like to have an outline of what to say. But you guys call it logical branch scripting.
Yep.
Logical branch scripting. So what the heck does that mean,
So
Darryl?
logical
Because
branch scripting, I love logical branch scripting. That's the engineers. Stupid. I need to talk to them. But it really, what it means is as the script evolves, like you could say, for example, maybe you're doing a discovery session and there's a script for that, and you're saying, okay, Phil, do you have a CRM? Yes or no. That's your two options.
yeah,
And
sure.
they say yes. Okay, the script logic goes, oh, I'm going to branch to the yes, like a tree. Oh, do you mind if you share it with me? Is it Salesforce or Pipedrive or HubSpot or Dynamics or something other? Oh, it's Salesforce. Okay, I'm going to pick Salesforce. I'm going to click Salesforce. So I had those options like a poll on my screen. Boom, it branches again. Oh, okay. Well, which edition of Salesforce do you have? Professional, standard, enterprise, what have you? Enterprise branch. And the whole time it's doing this, it's walking you through what to say as you branch your yes and no's or your options, what have you. It can be simultaneously updating your actual information. So, for example, when I said, do you have a CRM? And you said yes, then we could say, the account record would say, yes, CRM, they have it. So now I can do filters and reports on it. I said, which one? You said Salesforce. We update Salesforce. So now if I want to do a marketing campaign against all of my base who has Salesforce, because I have a really good, new feature for our Salesforce integration, I want you to know about it. Boom, there you go. So you're eliminating the data entry for the sales rep themselves to do it, which can always be hit or miss. So it's just a guide. We have many users who use it verbatim. This is what you say. Do not deviate from this. By the way, that's bad. For the most part, what it is, it's an outline. All right. We want you to own the lines and make it yourself, but we want you to actually give the answer. It just helps them. What I find about scripts, I've heard this best because I fought with many people about it. Benjamin Dennehy and I, the UK's most hated sales trainer, had a whole webinar about this. And he called me a sissy because I was pro script and he was anti-script. And he's stupid. So there we go. But I love him. The biggest thing I see over and over again is it's just what scripts do is make sure you don't miss anything, right? So you can go off on your own tangents, but you're like, oh shit, I forgot to ask about the CRM because it's in the script. I can see that. I can go back and it's a reminder. So I'm a big script guy. I am not a big read the damn script verbatim like a robot guy.
Good. Well, so it sounds to me like logical script branching is something that I learned about when I was a kid, and that is a choose your own adventure book. If this,
yes,
then pick this, right? I mean, and yet it seems so darn obvious.
Did you sit in front of the computer? I maybe dating myself on a DOS base or a Windows like 3.1 kind of computer, and you had role playing, and it was like, do I open the door or do I not open the door? And I can go on. If I open the door, then a whole new chapter opens up. It's exactly what it is.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah,
of course,
dude.
On an Apple IIc in the library, 7th period, 8th grade.
See, you got it. Man. You got it. Missed.
Yeah, of course.
Missed. Great game. There we go. I'm sorry. I'm dating myself too.
For sure. No, but all of those, right? And that's really that's really helpful to sales because A, it tracks it, so your boss is happy.
Yep.
B, it tracks it so that you can go back and query it and say, what happened this week? Oh, I'm talking to 37 CROs and this is what they responded with. So now you've got some insight. And third, it helps you not stumble so much because you know that it's right there. And if you listen, you can pay attention and you can hear where it logically needs to go. Am I getting this logical script?
You're totally getting it right. But the funny part, I was on a podcast recently with my good friend. I'm Mr. Name Dropper, by the way, so just ignore me. My good friend Michael Bedone, and I love it because Michael was sharing. He goes, people are afraid of the phone, so they're using the phone, and he goes, and this is what happens every time someone actually answers the phone.
No,
and they're like, "What do I do?" Right? And it's legit. We've all been there. It's like you go like, oh, stage fright. Line, please, line. And the script, the logical branch scripting is that person in the wings saying, Wherefore art thou, Romeo? Say it now, that way. That's the beauty of it. We've all been there, but it's also equally great for discovery. Like it says, you make sure you cover off all the bases and identify all the pain points. That's where I'm a big fan of it there in the discovery process, because you can go off on tangents, right? So that's the beauty, is you can go off on all this tangent. So even though the script's in front of you, you can go off on all these tangents and then come back to the script, 5 minutes later, and carry on the discovery. Because obviously a script is not going to be able to anticipate every branch you could possibly go to with a prospect, and that's okay. From their marketers, though, why they love it, this is something we never talk about. Why they love it is twofold. Because the marketers or the rep ops people, the ones who are actually pulling the list quite often and actually doing the reporting, the analysis, and which markets are performing better for us, and where do we have better conversion rates, and what do we need to focus on, and average deal size and deal acceleration, how much we at every single stage. All that is data that's captured through the script, which is killer. So now they have the data they got to report against and have real numbers. But the real reason they love it is because what they've done is the marketers, remember we said we're revenue teams, and marketers, your top of funnel, sales, your bottom of funnel. So what they've done to attract the people is they've done all the advertising, the pay-per-click, the events, the content, which drives the people to the website, and on the website, like you are right now, looking at all the content. And so the prospect is already being indoctrinated in certain keywords and messaging and value props and benefits and unique selling propositions. And it's because of that they've said, yes, I'll take your call, because they saw something they like. So now if the sales rep goes off and uses a completely different vocabulary or benefit statement, then it confuses the hell out of them. And that's when you have massive, drop in conversion rates, because I'm like, this is not what I thought. I thought I was here for X and you're talking about Y. So in the scripts, we get to put the same language, the same benefit statements, the same, unique selling propositions in there. And then you could even get more personalized based on the ideal customer profile or the persona. So they're speaking to the pain points and everything else. And when you're a new rep joining a company fresh, you don't know who the ICP is or who the personas are and why they care about your product or service. So having that safety net there, it's just goodness all around for marketing, for sales. And that's what brings us back to being a revenue team and why we like each other.
Yeah. Well, and it just makes so much sense for sales to use what marketing has done instead of trying to create it themselves, because that's what they do best. I mean, certainly they should write an email, they should talk to customers, they should give feedback, of course, right? But if you've done that and marketing has done their homework together, now we have harmony, right? Is that how that works?
It's a peanut butter and jam sandwich, all right? But here's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear the sales folks say, yeah, but what marketing says is bull. It's bull cookie. It's not good. It's wrong, because I'm talking on the phone. Marketing never gets on the phone. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're listening to Gartner or Forrester, or they're pie in the sky. I'm talking to the pragmatic people who are actually doing the buying, and the messaging is the messaging. Trust me, I know. And you know what? Sometimes those salespeople are actually right, which leads us back to your question about the sales and marketing get along. And part of what that is part of it. You're going to use, if you're a leading edge organization, you're going to have a service level agreement between the sales leader and the marketing leader that says, we commit as leaders of our respective teams to the following rules of engagement. And part of the rules of engagement are, what are the approved messages? We're going to work together on content and have agreement, as an example. Therefore, if you do that, so marketing actually proactively seeks out sales to contribute to content, to contribute to message, then all of a sudden you do have that consistency, and that excuse goes away. If you don't do that, then often sales is right and marketing's out to lunch.
Yeah. Well, and if it was just as simple as sending a bunch of emails, then sales wouldn't be needed either, right? I mean, if it was just nurture, well, then we don't need sales either. So that's so wild. So Darryl, if we're looking at this holistically from the revenue side, and we're all in revenue, right? We're in sales, we're in marketing, we're on the revenue team.
Yep.
We're thinking, oh boy, this is a lot, man. How do I get started on this journey towards getting that alignment, or even thinking about, oh boy, now I hear you, I need to redo my website and I need to redo my sales conversations. Where do I start, man?
Okay, so actually that's a really good question. I've had this conversation so many times. It's going to be a little different for every single person, but the best place to start is get all the stakeholders in a room. And I would include not just the sales leaders and the marketing leaders. I would also include, because in some organizations, these are separate teams, product marketing and product management if you can.
Mm.
And this is what you're going to do. You're going to go around in a round table in a safe environment, and you're going to say, we're going to get some consensus on some foundational elements. So these are some of the questions you're going to ask the team. Everybody's going to put their answer maybe privately and then present it just in a casual setting. And no one's allowed to react. You just listen to it, and maybe there's a master person keeping track of all the answers on a board, so that you can actually, when everybody's had a chance to deliver their answers, you can go, "Holy shit, are we dysfunctional or what? How do we make a single sale?" You're going to ask them, "Who is? No, sorry. What markets do we sell into? Industries, verticals. Who is our target ideal customer? Small, medium, enterprise. Define who they are. What is their ideal customer profile? Job title, etc. Okay, you're gonna do that. Then you're gonna say next, who are the people involved in the buying committee, and what do they care about? So for me, VanillaSoft, I would want to talk to a head of sales. I want to talk to a head of marketing. I want to talk to a head of revenue operations, and they would care about X and Y and Z. All right, and then you're going to say, great. For marketing to hand a lead to sales, what needs to have been captured for it to be deemed marketing qualified and sales accepted? All right, that's it. You're going to just ask those questions right there. Maybe one more, you're going to say, what is our unique selling proposition to that customer? You are going to be gobsmacked when you walk around the room and realize how disparate the answers are all over the place. So that's okay. Now you know. That's what was causing you frustration before. And what's going to happen is your CEO or your CFO or your head of product management is going to say, you think that's our customer and that's our selling proposition and that's why they buy? But our roadmap is completely opposite because we think it's this. And marketing's going to go, well, wait a minute, I thought it was that. And that's what I'm talking about. Just having that conversation, you will eventually, through multiple meetings, come out with a standard ideal customer profile, a standard persona, and a standard lead definition, and a standard USP. And from that, that's your foundation. Now you can build up all the selling tools and the content and the collateral and the messaging, but the organization is now aligned. That's where you start. It's an entertaining experience. Manage expectations, laugh at yourself, wonder how you had success, and then fix it.
Wow. Wow. Big questions, hard answers, entertaining conversation. That sounds a lot like this conversation with you, Darryl.
Oh,
Thanks,
my
man.
friend, you're too generous. Thank you.
No, it's true. I appreciate it. So quick, tell us a little bit more about VanillaSoft. For those that are listening here that don't know about VanillaSoft and the work that you guys do there, I'm always entertained by the content you put out. But I know, I know Sean Finder, right? You
Yep.
guys combined forces there with AutoClose, which brought two of my favorite people to learn from together. So tell me in quickly, like, what is VanillaSoft and how do you guys help sales folks?
All right, so let me speak before I tell you what VanillaSoft is and give you a feature and product pitch. Let me speak to the pains we would solve. All right. So if you find your sales organization likes to cherry pick the leads that are given to them by marketing because some are better than others, and I know better. If cherry picking is a problem, all right, stay tuned. If you find your sales team takes a long time to follow up leads that have just been handed off to them, even though we all know you should respond to them within an hour statistically, stay tuned. If you find your sales reps make 2 to 3 attempts per lead and then they kind of give up, even though we know you should do 9 to 12 before you'll ever have success, according to all the stats and research out there, you've got a problem. If you know you've got sales reps who are afraid or blatantly avoid specific channels, maybe they are afraid of the phone and never use it. It's all email, baby. Or maybe they're afraid of social. And because of that, there's a third or more of your target prospects that are not responding to you because you're not at the channel where they hang out. You've got a problem. All of that plus more is what we solve. We do a thing called sales engagement. Sales engagement is simply, in its simplest way, it's a multi-channel, phone, email, social, direct mail, video, whatever, outreach to your prospects over a defined cadence or sequence, i.e., 7 touches in 7 days, 12 touches in 18 days, as an example, so that your reps actually talk to more people and have more conversations and more pipeline. And that eliminates cherry picking, it eliminates slow response, speed to lead, it eliminates all of the 2 or 3 attempts. It eliminates sticking to 1 or 2 channels only because they're afraid of the other ones. That's what it does. And it would really, you kind of typically would have marketing uses marketing automation, your SDRs and BDRs use sales engagement, and then your AEs often will use a CRM. That's the typical tech stack. We would compete with companies you may have heard of like SalesLoft and Outreach. We specifically are a different market. We tend to focus on SMBs, small to medium-sized organizations, not enterprise companies. And we focus on real-world industries. So while we do high tech, that's kind of a secondary market for us. We're into things like insurance, finance, higher education, not-for-profits, manufacturing. There you go. That's the pitch. How'd I do?
That was great, man. That's good. So, I mean, sales engagement is so important, and I like the way that you defined it. The way that you did, right? That it's multi-channel, that it's outreach, right?
Mhm.
Defined cadence, sequence, script, whatever you want to call that, right? And getting people to actually do what is proven to work, even if they maybe don't like it, and making it easy for them to do. So I really dig that, Darryl. I think there's a lot there. And I think there's a lot of stuff you shared today, man, about listening, about communicating up for sure. Absolutely about the revenue team. I love how you brought in product management and product marketing. And then your last questions there, man, really brought it home for me, right? Ask yourself, what market do we sell into? Who's our target ideal customer profile? Who are the people involved in buying? And what do they care about? And then what needs to be captured to make things accepted, qualified, and actually a real lead around that unique selling proposition. So powerful stuff, Darryl. I appreciate all of that. If folks want to ask you questions, if they want to connect with you more, where would you have them go? Obviously, they could go to vanillasoft.com to learn about them, but where do they learn more about the amazing Darryl Praill?
I don't know. I've never met him, but if you want to talk to me, then you can go to LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and just go to Google and Google Darryl Praill. You can go to darrylpraill.com. Lots of ways. Don't be shy.
Awesome. Awesome. Darryl, thanks for dropping some smart bombs today, man. I know you got a lot to do, so thanks so much for your time. I really value you, buddy.